evening and welcome to another episode of Inner Stand to Ascend. And today we are discovering a very interesting topic, which is memory. How much do you actually remember about yourself? How can you actually remember and why you don't remember certain things? And how can we all step back on the path of remembrance? So this topic has been coming up quite a lot for me actually ever since I started doing what I'm doing, let's say. Different aspects of memory and why do we actually have those different blockages when it comes to remembering certain things. I would say that as a human race, we are kind of in that state of the global amnesia, but we are progressively on the way towards actually learning how to remember once again. Because I guess kind of like something that I would say in the introduction, everything that you remember, you used to know before. So you're not really learning anything new, you're just remembering. And that's actually what many ancient philosophers were saying. We go back to Plato, who was actually saying that the soul is leaving the ideal world and is going to the material one. And in the material world, the soul is losing the remembrance of itself, and it progressively goes throughout different experiences to remember its identity once again. So I would say that's quite of a good concept to start with. Our soul already remembers everything, but we, as kind of like a 3D identity, we are bringing back this to our conscious perception. So the memories are on different levels. And I'm going to explain where our memory actually is, whether it's kind of like in the mental body, or where is that memory? Maybe that's kind of like a good question to start with, or like how can memory actually be defined? So in a moment, I will give my own definition of memory that I have created. We will also speak a little bit about like what is a memory matrix, what happened during the fall of Gaia, certain distortions that occurred with the Gaian matrix. We are also going to speak about certain aspects of the mind where like we've got the conscious mind, and that is the one where it's kind of like, let's say we remember certain things and they are like in our consciousness, so like everything that is in our awareness. We also have the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind and the overconscious mind. So I am going to explain the difference and how those, let's say, four elements of the mind are actually kind of co-creating with each other, you could say. I will also explain a little bit about something that's been coming a lot on my sessions lately, which is the blank slate technology. And also we are going to speak a little bit about different types of the memory matrices and different types of records. So I guess we can begin. So how can memory be defined? I'm going to read the definition that I have created. Memory is a scalar wave that holds information and can move freely through time and space. Our personal memory matrix is a collection of all the information we have gathered from the unified field and accreted directly into our biofields. Through the intrinsic connection to the collective race field, as well as the planetary, galactic, and universal fields, we also have an access to the larger fields of memory, information. Each conscious unit coexisting in the unified field of the God Source has its own set of memories, experiences that affect one's encryption and shape its individuated essence. So, the set of memories that we hold in our template, they are actually defining our nature, our personality, who we truly are. Our memories work as filters that have a direct impact on the way we perceive the world and feel the connection to the source. And that last one is important. Because if you don't remember your connection to the source, you don't have the start point, right? And that's actually what's been happening a lot in this time matrix, so I am going to expand on that as we go on. Memories carry various spectra of frequency. That's why they can be perceived as past, future, or present. So this means that they can travel through time. So like the memories that are having a lower frequency, we perceive them as the past. The memories that have higher frequency, we perceive them as the future, or like certain probabilities that could take place in the future. So that's kind of the mechanics behind it. Memories carry frequency, so our mind is translating that frequency, and then we define something as either being in the past or the future. So that's the way it works. And that's why some of those memories of like kind of being a part of a more advanced civilization, that's why they are gone, because that civilization used to have much higher frequency. So in order for our mind to consciously start retrieving that memory, we actually need to kind of like downstep that frequency into our conscious minds, and that requires the right frequency accretion in our templates, but I'm gonna speak about that later. So when it comes to the memory, it is holding information, it is holding frequency, and it is corresponding to a certain space-time location in the universe. So memories are like encryptions that like once you start putting memories together, it's kind of like a puzzle game. So I would say that on this planet, we are quite of an interesting race, because we don't have all the pieces. So throughout different incarnations, we are kind of putting all of this puzzle game together to kind of get like a certain concept. Where are we and what are we doing here? And now like a cluster of those memories is referred to as the memory matrix. And I'm going to first explain what that memory matrix is about, and then how this memory matrix has been actually affected in our local universe. So a memory matrix of an individual is a cluster of memory, information, encryption collected into one's personal morphogenetic field. So the morphogenetic field, basically our, let's say, 15-dimensional and beyond 15 dimensions, our morphogenetic field is kind of like a cluster that is holding different levels of our memory matrix, because it's like our memory matrix is having multiple levels. So like there's actually a lot of things that you can remember. The memory matrix of form is held inside of the crystal body structure. That's why it is referred to as the crystalline matrix. And the crystal body structure is an aspect of the light body, the external light body anatomy. The internal imprint for this system is governed by the earth crystal plasma body. Inside of this internal structure, we have something referred to as the memory crystals that keep the organic blueprint for memory. Memory crystals in the earth body are actual templates that hold the encryption of ourselves and all our aspects ever since we incarnated into the fields of the external creation. So there is the crystal body that is holding it's kind of like within the crystal body, you've got all of those different memory imprints on the light body level. But the light body has been created by the plasma body internal template. And now there's kind of like there's always like a lot of rescue systems. So like if something doesn't work, then there is something else that is kind of like holding the blueprint for the restoration of that one that got affected. So in that case, if the crystal body, the crystalline matrix of the crystal body gets affected, you've got the earth body, which is the layer of the plasma body. And again, when we have the plasma body template, the internal body template, it is composed of 5 layers: the ether body, the air body, water body, earth body, and the fire body. And the earth body is specific because it kind of like it's quite special because it's holding those memory crystals, which are the imprint for the crystals on the level of the light crystal body template. So even if there are some distortions in the crystal body, and usually there are, that's why there are a lot of false memories projected into people's minds. This earth body template comes to the game, and through the earth body you can start to retrieve your original memories, the templates for the memories. And now, if you're wondering why those distortions actually took place, I am going to read an excerpt of what I was given when it comes to the memory matrix of Gaia, something that is referred to as the Gaian fall, and how that's been affecting also the memories. So in each time matrix, there is a key planet or a key star that holds the D12 divine blueprint encryption and connects us to higher energy structures and the Eka core. So there is always like a key planet that holds this divine blueprint that kind of gives this divine encryption that connects everything in the entire universe to the source. Such planet in our time matrix used to be Aramatena, and also because of the fact that it was holding the Stargate number 12, so it was kind of like a gateway which was allowing all of the beings, when they accreted enough frequency, they were able to get out of this time matrix. And Aramatena actually fell due to the destruction of the Stargate 12 by the fallen Anu and the Draconian forces, which were deceived by the Black Dragon Legion, and that led to the fall and progressive degeneration of the organic templates of all races in the time matrix that followed the D12 divine blueprint. Distortions in the D12 divine blueprint have a significant impact on one's memory matrix. Our connection to the source allows us to keep a memory of ourselves as individuated essences, ever since we externalized ourselves to the internal and external creation fields. Disconnection from the source equals memory loss, since we forget about the primal desire of the source, which is its original intention when the entire creation came to place. The D12 divine blueprint would allow the living beings in the external time matrix to maintain the connection with source. Losing that memory blueprint triggered major distortions in the morphogenetic field templates of all beings. This issue had been temporarily managed through inserting a host field in the D8 core of Gaia, which is the density-free aspect of Aramatena. So it's like Aramatena was in density 4, and then in density 3, and dimension 8, you've got Gaia. Gaia was giving an opportunity for all races to restore back their D12 imprint through reconnecting with the host memory matrix of Gaia. The angelic Oraphim humans were specifically chosen as guardians of this mission. However, and actually we were doing pretty well with that, and I'm saying we because the angelic human race of Earth, it's kind of like our ancestors are actually those Oraphim angelic human beings from Gaia. So that's where you, when you see all of those giants on the rocks and kind of in the mountains, those giants are directly originating from Gaia. we used to be much bigger back then. So it's kind of like those giants that we see on the planet. They are representing a part of that bigger identity that we used to be on this planet. So like Earth is kind of like a very small part of Gaia, even though right now it is actually holding like the imprint to restore all those distortions that took place during the Gaian fall. So I will just go 2 sentences back. Gaia was giving an opportunity for all races to restore back their D12 imprint through reconnecting with the host memory matrix of Gaia. So that host memory matrix was actually holding this D12 blueprint that has been kind of like extracted out of Aramatena after its fall. The angelic Oraphim humans were specifically chosen as the guardians of this mission. However, due to the massive infiltration of Gaia through the plasma wars and interbreeding campaigns, the core of Gaia has been split, and about 66% of it has been sucked into a black hole. Along with that split, millions of consciousness essences have experienced a split or a fragmentation of their oversoul matrix, and the planet itself lost a significant part of its memory. So it's not like we started losing that on a personal level. We actually started losing that on a collective level first. And since we didn't really have that connection to that collective field, those distortions started directly affecting us because those plasma wars were taking place, and those were basically wars of very high destructive plasma energies. They were hitting the planet, and basically many of us were kind of like dying instantly due to those extremely destructive frequencies. So when a being experiences such death through basically like a frequency, that frequency starts to scramble their template. It's not like they just get hit and then they can reincarnate again. There's like a big split because those plasma frequencies, those reversed violet frequencies that were hitting Gaia, the reversed green and reversed violet were the most common ones. They were causing a major twist in the templates, and not just the light body templates, but also the plasma body templates. So if we were like about to go back to seeing when those distortions in the plasma body templates started, I would say among the angelic human race, at least, that was already on Gaia. So later on, all of those fragmentations of the internal and external templates had to be managed somehow. And that's kind of when all of those host arrangements that are coming to place right now need to be introduced because the damage was way too big. So distortions in the Gaian matrix led to the eons of fake prophets, spreading the false knowledge about the natural energy mechanics. There has been multiple attempts to restore the damage that took place 360 billion years ago through the seeding on Tara, which is kind of like another downstepped aspect of Aramatena. Tara is located in density 2, and later on Earth. However, all these attempts have failed due to the high level of the multidimensional interference. So basically, whenever something started to go well, there was another thing that's kind of like destroyed it. So that's why in order to actually bring back everything that has been lost, we needed something more than the plasma templates, because actually we kind of started with bringing back the plasma frequency potential on the planet, but that was never enough because the distortions in the planetary plasma body have started way before, and there just wasn't enough of the proper quantum to restore it back. That's why we needed a certain type of amplified frequencies to save the damage that took place 360 billion years ago on Gaia. The Milky Way galaxy itself lost 60% of its organic memory matrix. This lack of organic quantum affected the memory matrix of all life forms, including the angelic humans of Earth. This can be restored only through the host field that is provided by M31 Andromeda, which holds the organic blueprint of Milky Way's template before the split. The Blue Lotus Tether line connection is providing progressive healing of these templates. And I am going to speak more about Andromeda as we go on. However, there is like a certain... Okay, I am being told to leave it for the end, so maybe that's just what I'm gonna do. But I will mention what the touch of the source is and why it is like a certain frequency upgrade when it comes to the eternal host, and how does the touch of the source also help us retrieve our organic memories, because right now it is actually like a very important aspect of this entire planetary game. So that those things that happened on those very high levels with Gaia, with Tara, and then with Earth, we have been basically, like, the memories have been extracted out of the planetary body and out of our personal records. So right now, even when like there's many people who are like trying to go into Akashic records and different types of cosmic libraries, you need to be careful where you're actually searching, because some of the information you receive might be true, but they might not be complete. And sometimes when you don't discover the entire truth, so it kind of leads you to false conclusions. So that's why these days, the best way to look into your kind of like things like the ones that are quite popular, like past lifetimes and things like that, it's usually through looking into yourself. So either through the reading of your DNA, or eventually through hypnosis, when you're basically kind of like going back into your subconscious and you start to remember all of those different lifetimes that you used to have. So I'm going to explain a little bit about different levels of the mind, different stations of the mind, and what kind of and how they are actually governing different processes in our body. So firstly, we've got the conscious mind, and that is corresponding to the mental body, and this is the level of dimension 3. And this is pretty much like something that is quite simple to understand. This is our ego, our regular state of perception, and our logical mind. So like, as you're listening to this video and you start to kind of like analyze everything that I am speaking about, you are doing this with your conscious mind, with your logical mind. And you're trying to comprehend the information and kind of like associate it with the other things that you used to know before. Then we've got the subconscious mind, which is corresponding to the emotional body. And this is the level of dimension 2. And now, the way that it kind of like, if you try to locate those kind of like different stations of the mind in your brain, I would say that the conscious mind is kind of here in the area of the forehead. It's kind of like the front of your head. While when you go into your subconscious, it is the back of the head. So there's kind of like this space that you can go to, And this is the space that you can activate in order to go into your subconscious mind. And this is the place from which our feelings and emotions derive from. And all sorts of subliminal messages are projected out to this level. And also a lot of memories have been pushed away to our subconscious. And when we speak about the intuition, like kind of this sense like, oh, I should do this, or like I shouldn't do that, this is coming from your subconscious mind. A sense of intuition is basically, you have that ability to tap into your subconscious, because your subconscious is actually very conscious. It's just like there needs to be like a bridge being created between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And this area is mostly about like feelings and emotions. So sometimes it is kind of difficult to find the right words when you try to tap into your subconscious mind. It's kind of the domain of feelings, and kind of like a stream of consciousness that may also manifest throughout different visions. So that's kind of what happens during the hypnosis. Your mind is moving into that. Actually, it's not, it doesn't really move to higher stations of perception. It moves to the lower ones, to the slower waves. And you start to pick up the things that are kind of like on the back of your mind, literally on the back of your head. You can obviously also move into your overconscious mind. And you can also do that through the hypnotic state, even though you don't really have to. You can achieve like a direct connection with both your subconscious and overconscious mind without having to alter your state of consciousness. There are different ways to do that. I will explain that in a minute. We also have the unconscious mind, and that one is corresponding to the first dimension. And this is the station where the mind and thoughts, they basically do not really exist. On this level, all the biological processes take place. All emotions, feelings, and thoughts are translated into the biochemical reactions. So, for example, like you're going through like a stressful situation. And so that stress, that feeling of stress is going through your subconscious mind, right? Like on a conscious level, you're just trying to keep going and you stay determined. But on the emotional body level, you're kind of going through the emotion of stress. What happens in the unconscious mind is that the stress is being translated into a biochemical process taking place in your body. So like you start to produce adrenaline, right? And this adrenaline starts to kind of like affect your body in multiple ways to kind of help you clear that feeling of stress that normally would kind of like freeze you and you wouldn't be able to do anything. So the unconscious mind, excuse me, is basically related to the emotions becoming the biochemical processes in the body. That's how it works. And we also have the overconscious mind. And this one is kind of like going from the level of the fourth dimension and all the way above. We've got like 15 stations of the mind. And this is a station through which we can reconnect with our soul, our oversoul, etc. And this is a mind that goes beyond the ego. So the overconscious mind can be also referred to as the higher self, the eternal self. Depends on which kind of level we choose to perceive it. So I received a question from a friend of mine. How are the mental body and memory linked? We all presume that the memory is in the mental body. is it? So I'm going to give you a certain perspective on how those levels of the mind are working and why they actually should be working together, and why right now it's like we can access our conscious mind, we operate mostly through our conscious mind, but we are not fully aware of the processes that take place in our subconscious or unconscious unless you actually train yourself to start working with them, because you can. It just takes practice. So the mental body corresponds to the D3 conscious mind station. However, we have stations of mind on every single dimensional level. Since we are located in the third dimension, and the third dimension is density 1, the dimension 4 and beyond are referred to as the overconscious mind, our higher self. Memory of our true essence, identity, is located on various levels. It's like a staircase. So you could go for like a certain reading of your past lifetimes, and you could be told that like before incarnating on Earth, you were basically like someone is seeing you on a spaceship in Andromeda, and that could be very much true, and probably that's when they are picking this up from a certain level of your memory matrix, let's say from dimension 5. So basically they are tapping into different levels. In organic circumstances, our density 1 mind, which is composed of the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, should be a united composite. However, it is not. There is a major fragmentation into the unconscious, subconscious, and conscious mind. Those three components of the mind should work as an interwoven trinity, but it does not due to the dimensional phase lock that has been inserted on the various parts of the mind. And now you may think, why? Why did they actually cause that split on different levels of our minds? So this has been deliberately inserted so that we do not stay in touch with our intuition, but especially the consciousness of our body. And that includes the biological form, which would be the unconscious mind, and also with the consciousness of our atoms, because actually like the subconscious tells us more about our emotions, but the unconscious mind like if you go deep enough into your unconscious, which is literally kind of like at the base of the skull, while the subconsciousness is like on the back of the head, the base of the skull, kind of that place where the skull is interfacing with the neck. This is the area of the unconscious, and that's where you can kind of tune in with your atomic consciousness as well. Our atoms and cells hold memory, and through conscious communication with them, we can heal ourselves. A split between various harmonies of the mind also enabled to program the mind with various subliminal messages. Thus, it created an opportunity to alter our behavioral, biological, and emotional patterns. And later, these emotional patterns from the subconscious mind are being directly translated into biological chemical processes in the unconscious. So imagine that you're watching a movie, and it's a horror movie, and it's causing that fear in you. So like that fear, all of those drastic scenes, even if you forget them after a while, after watching the movie, your subconscious does not, unless you actually kind of heal the trauma. And later on, that fear, if that movie has been programmed in a specific way, this scene is going to start running like on an autopilot. So you might end up getting nightmares. Like some people start to get like a kind of like are getting into like a state of getting nightmares every night after watching a horror movie. Why is that? Because this keeps running on an autopilot. So like your subconscious keeps seeing the movie if they kind of program the subliminals in a specific way. And so like a part of your mind, and by the way, like you're watching a movie and you're perceiving certain things happening. But on a conscious level, you process only 3% of what is actually happening in the movie. The other 97 is going into your subconscious. So like most of the things you didn't even pick up on. So you don't exactly know what's going on. And like what happens is that like your subconscious is processing that movie, those distorted patterns of the movie, and that fear keeps going through the subconscious. So you might start getting anxiety or whatever else. And that fear is being translated into chemicals in your body. And then it might be distorting the hormonal reactions. It might be messing up with your endocrine system, the one which is responsible for producing hormones. It might be affecting the glands. Because of a really big amount of the subliminal messages, we've got literally like an epidemic of the distortions in the thyroid gland. And then that is actually blocking your ability to self-express yourself. So there's a lot of various distortions that could be out there. And most of them can be reprogrammed from the subconscious mind, or sometimes from the unconscious if the problem kind of got into the physical level. So to kind of like summarize everything that I've said so far, the memory is located on various stations of perception. So like what you bring into your conscious mind is coming either from below, from the D2 subconscious or D1 unconscious, but it's also coming from the overconscious mind. The main reason why we don't hold the entire memory from this lifetime and other lifetimes is because of the split in the density 1 trinity of the mind, the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, as well as the lack of integration between the right and the left side of the brain. And another thing that happened back in Atlantis, like after the Atlantean flood, is that there was like this split between the conscious mind as well, where the lower harmonics, like from 3.1 to 3.5, this is your ego, but above the 3.5, this is your higher self. And like that higher self aspect of the conscious mind was able to connect us with the overconscious. And right now we are kind of like stuck, phase locked with that ego self that needs to progressively build that bridge of communication with the other stations of our mind. So the way you can start working with it, it's kind of like, you can imagine those stations of perception like kind of like a staircase, where the point of focus should be always kind of like in the area of where your pineal gland is. So you can imagine that like there's kind of like a platform in the area of the pineal, and it's kind of looking like a disc. And there is like a staircase going down and up. And the one which is going up is connecting you to your unconscious, to your overconscious. The one which is going downwards is connecting you to your subconscious and unconscious mind. And if you go low enough, you will be able to access your subconscious and the unconscious. And it's kind of like as if every single step, when you go through that staircase, it's bringing you either higher to those harmonics when you have where you have the overconscious mind, or lower where you have the subconscious. And you kind of stop yourself on every step, on every kind of step of the staircase. And you're asking yourself, like, what am I sensing there? What kind of programs do I feel from there? And it might turn out that there's just certain music that keeps running on an autopilot in your subconscious, or there are some programs or some kind of like images, some disturbing images that have directly came into your subconscious mind and they are affecting you in a specific way. There's always a reason for certain emotional patterns to repeat themselves. And the answer is in the subconscious mind, because that's where the station of the emotional body is. So I hope this makes sense. I had to practice that myself because they try to get through the subconscious mind. So I needed like an accelerated training. So I hope that if you're kind of having such problems, maybe you will also find that helpful for yourself. Okay, and another question that I've got: how can trauma keep a memory from happening? Does that mean that the emotional body is in charge of the domain of the memory? So this is my answer, and I really hope it's gonna make sense, because I can kind of feel it, but it's so difficult to translate it into the right words, because the subconscious is kind of like beyond the words. Our mind is a very complex and sophisticated tool. Each one of our experiences gets saved as an energy imprint in our morphogenetic field structure. Every single perception, every single thing that you're listening to. When we experience an event that causes extreme release of emotions, it causes a major shift in our neurological structure. So actually every single thing that you're listening to, every single thing that you see, every single symbol, it starts to cause a certain shift in your neurological system. That's why all of those secret societies like the symbolism, because it speaks directly into your subconscious. And they love messing with your mind, believe me. The human mind makes direct associations connected to the trauma in order to prevent itself from getting affected again. It works like a program operating on an autopilot. Whenever we experience a certain situation in which the circumstances are very similar to the experienced trauma, our mind triggers the same reaction we had when we experienced the trauma itself before. The defense mechanism in the brain pushes all the emotions associated with the trauma into our subconscious mind, where they can be processed to prevent the identity from going through a mental breakdown, which can cause even more damage. But like normally, if our brain didn't have a certain insertion, the subconscious mind would be able to heal and process those heavy emotions. But like we've got a certain part of the brain, it's referred to as the goat brain or the parasympathetic nervous system, which kind of it keeps saving all of those emotions. And then whenever we experience something similar to the trauma, we react in the same way. And it's kind of like we keep looping, we make the same, it triggers the same reaction all over again. So if the trauma reaches a critical mass of low frequency of the negative emotions, it may be wiped out from the conscious memory completely, moved to the subconscious and unconscious mind. So what happens is that our mind, so that it doesn't freak out, it's kind of pushing all of those traumas, kind of like literally like trying to cover them, and they are being pushed away to the subconscious. So if you often get headaches, specifically on the back of your head, this means there is a lot in your subconscious. And all of the traumas, if they are supposed to be healed, they need to be consciously reprogrammed by going to the past moment and all of those things that I would speak about on my previous shows. But the subconscious mind also needs to be accessed in a way, and all of those harmful programs that are located on different subharmonics of the conscious mind also need to be cleared. Otherwise, you might heal yourself from the trauma itself, but when a similar situation happens, this imprint triggers again, because you still have that programming in your body. So even if you just think about it and you kind of think like you healed it, but then when you experience a similar situation and it happens again, that's because the program that still exists there. So it's kind of like as if when you reprogram that trauma, so like you speak, let's say there's like a certain childhood trauma and it's triggering a lot of fear. So like you go back in time, you're speaking to your inner child, you're healing all of those energy blockages, etc., etc. What you need to do afterwards is literally kind of like normally like you can be very technical and kind of try to detect on which subharmonic that trauma is, blah, blah, blah. But if you cannot do that, you need to create a transmutation wave. So you basically just concentrate energies inside of your core, of your eternal body between chakra 3 and 4. You create that transmutation wave and you send it through the back of your head with the intention to clear that traumatic imprint. And then you can create like an eternal crystal. And I think I was speaking about the eternal crystals like a week or two ago. So again, like you create it in the core of your eternal body. And you basically fill it in with the opposite of the program that was inserted. So if there was like a fear program, you replace it with courage. Like you create a crystal of courage in the core of your eternal body, and then you send it to the area of the back of your head. And this crystal stays there and it basically automatically keeps clearing your subconscious. So there's kind of like this element needs to be added to fully heal the trauma. Otherwise, those programs are kind of staying and they just wait to kind of start working once again when a similar situation happens. Okay, and now a little bit about the memory and the DNA template. So I hope that what I said so far makes sense to you. This is like something that I'm still learning about and studying, so I guess I will be also expanding on that in the future. Anyways, the DNA template and how the DNA is also related to memory, because there are some people, including myself, who can read the DNA and kind of like read past lifetimes from it, for example, or like read different distortions in the DNA. So what the DNA is really holding. The DNA template works like a biological computer that holds information about all our experiences since our first individuation, so from other lifetimes as well, but also organic instructions for various processes of our multidimensional anatomy. So when you have the morphogenetic field, which is like a huge, huge structure of your personal field, the DNA template is kind of like I would say, a certain copy of it that you have within your body. But it's not really like a copy, it's like the organic replica of it. And the DNA template is inside of your body. So when you're kind of like going inner and when you want to find the answers within yourself, you start to activate and trigger activation of certain aspects of your DNA. So the DNA template holds information about ourselves and the entire creation in forms of codes and programs, which are now partially blocked due to the junk DNA phenomena. The memories are encoded within the DNA like a film roll and can be encoded for them to come into the conscious perception. Imprints of trauma get saved or crystallized. Sorry, I'm just gonna start that sentence since the beginning. I think I didn't read it properly. Imprints of trauma get saved as the crystallized forms that block the organic DNA strands from braiding. So we've got like two aspects of the main blockages that don't allow us to successfully encode our DNA. These are those crystals, inorganic static Shona light crystals, that are blocking certain functions of the DNA. So let's say you had 7 DNA strands activated during a certain period of the plasma wars, and then you were basically hit and you died, and there's this imprint of that trauma from back then. So there could be those crystallized forms in your 7th DNA strand coming from that trauma, those stuck emotions that haven't been properly processed and managed. And also the junk DNA, these are basically parts of the DNA that have been artificially extracted out of our template, so that we don't remember who we are, and so that we don't remember the connection to the planet and to the source in most simple terms. So whenever we activate those additional strands, like strand 4, 5, 6, etc., you can go all the way up to 48, you start to retrieve all of those codes that have been lost. Any parts of consciousness stuck on other timelines manifest as empty codes or the missing codes in the DNA structure. Bringing back various aspects of fragmentations from this lifetime, especially the childhood, when the DNA and other structures were at early stage of development, and basically other codes, it is essential to complete the DNA sequencing and enable for the progressive return of incarnational memories back to the conscious mind. So this is like a progressive process of retrieval. And I've got a certain question when it comes to that, so let me just read it. So how to deal with many subconscious programs quicker? It might take very long if it's like 100 of traumas and different programs. So I would say that those programs, they are kind of like layers. There are layers within layers, but there is always like a core program that is kind of like a milestone. Basically, like if you've been, let's say, like executed 7 times throughout your lifetimes, well, it would take you ages to come back to each one of the executions and start getting yourself out of there. But there is like a milestone in each. There are like a few milestones that are kind of like located on your timeline, and you have to find that specific milestone, and that can be also in this lifetime. So you usually kind of go back to the first one. So let's say there's a person that suffers from depression. There are specific moments in their lifetime which triggered that depression, right? So obviously they are not going to be coming back and healing every single mental breakdown that they have gone through, because that would take them ages and that wouldn't change much. But for example, there could be like there could be certain periods of time that were kind of the points that triggered the depression that they are suffering from. So let's say that could be like 8 years of age and 15 years of age. So if they come back and they heal the 8-year-old fragmentation and the 15-year-old fragmentation, they will be able to collect enough quantum, enough of the healed energy quantum, to spread it through the timeline. And that healed energy will start to automatically bring back and restore all of those other fragmentations from different periods of time, and also to automatically start clearing your subconscious mind. So that's kind of how it works. I hope this makes sense. You have to search for certain milestones when it comes to healing your traumas. You should kind of like go back to the moment when it started, heal the moment when it started, and a few of the points when you kind of felt like, oh, these were the major points when something happened and things were getting worse. So that's how I usually approach this, because otherwise, yeah, it would take you ages to go back to every single trauma. There's a lot of them. And you can do that when you have time later, but you have to trigger those, you have to trigger the healing of those heavier ones first, and then you can just go to those easier ones. Okay, so now a little bit about something that is referred to as the blank slate technology. And I think I used to explain how that works on a personal level. So this time there's like a little bit of an insight on how this has affected the planet, more like the planet. So the blank slate technology can be inserted either on a personal or collective level. An aspect of multiple resets of this planet, basically like the main aspect of the multiple resets of this planet, it was basically when those resets were what I'm trying to say is that when those resets were taking place, that was usually involving the blank slate technology on a global scale to cause the de-evolution of humanity. So like there's been a certain disaster taking place, like let's say the Atlantean flood, but then it's like there would be a group of people that would survive the reset and they would still remember what's actually taking place. So they kind of decided to add this one more component, which was the blank slate technology, that was being inserted on multiple timelines. Then there were different natural disasters, well, not so natural, but different disasters taking place on a planetary scale. And then people would hold no memories of it because certain aspects of that disaster have been cleared out along with the other knowledge that was known before the reset. So that's why we are kind of like in the stage where like all of those technologies that we have right now, the cell phones, computers, etc., all of it was available before and it was way more advanced. So it's kind of like we are being given that technology again. It's not like we just suddenly invented it and we are so brilliant. No, it all existed before. So I would say that there's been certain inventors on the planet that were able to like either consciously or unconsciously, they were able to tap into those timelines when that technology was available. Memory is the key to self-sovereignty, but it can also be used as a manipulation tool. Traditional history became a false memory guardian of this planet, creating false holographic projections and egregores created by the humanity's mass beliefs. And that mainly involves religion. The blank slate technology wiped out certain key events from the memory of the collective field. And that mainly includes the Tartarian reset. That's the latest one that we had in the 18th century. And like smaller aspects of it took place during the World Wars. But it was also used directly on certain individuals to prevent them from accessing certain information about themselves that could be crucial for finding out their true origin. So it can be inserted on a personal level or like on a planetary level. And like when we have those big resets on a planetary level, I would say most of the people don't remember. And those that remember are being chased. So when we had the Middle Ages, those people that held memories of certain things were perceived as the heretics. So that's why they were number one to catch, and basically, well, their lives were being ended very quickly so that this memory doesn't spread to the collective awareness. So like some people hold the codes that enable them to kind of avoid that blank slate technology. So that's why some of us can actually remember, but that's always coming from the fact that there's this specific coding in the DNA that allows us to keep that memory. Even though sometimes, like as we were talking, not last week, but 2 weeks ago, about the missing codes in the DNA, sometimes we allow ourselves to lose a part of our memories, at least on a conscious level, so that we are not targeted that heavily. So now we are going to speak a little bit about the distortions in the planetary and the galactic memory matrix. So when it comes to the planet, this planet lost about 35% of its organic records. This happened mostly due to the wall in time and the blank slate technology that has been inserted during the electric plasma wars 5.5 million years ago. There has been also attempts to insert false holographic memories of certain historical events on a collective level. Activation of the planetary flame of Elisa, connecting the planetary records with the cosmic libraries, the halls of Cosminias, as well as the transmissions of the organic eternal scripts from the Urea Cosmoversal libraries, I'm going to explain that later, are the key attempts to restore the planet's connection to the organic memory matrix. Because if we remember, we are going to have the power to restore everything that has been taken away from us. So like all of those tricks when it comes to stealing the memory and kind of like affecting the organic planetary records that were holding all sorts of informations about the humanity, its history, this already started 5 million years ago. So it's been a really long time. And right now, all of those memories that have been lost are being retrieved. And that also includes that entire aspect of the fall of Gaia, because the split of the core of Gaia and the distortions in the plasma templates that started to appear in there ever since were a major problem. So like this planet has actually never been in its full ascension power. Like this is the first time in history of the planet when we have an access to those eternal Urea libraries. And those libraries are also bringing us that memory of what actually happened on Gaia, because that's like a key aspect to remember what happened there, so that we kind of understand the origins of our fall and how do we actually get out of that victim-victimizer situation. When it comes to the Milky Way galaxy, this one lost over 60% of its organic memory matrix. The split between the Milky Way and Andromeda, that took place 330 million years ago, created the black hole in the center of the galaxy that started depleting the entire system from the organic quantum, creating holes in the structures of the particle grids. And how does it work with the particle grids? I'm going to explain that in a moment, because that will also give us a certain perspective to kind of like understand from the level of physics how does the lack of memories kind of manifest in our templates? So that will be in a moment. A part of the larger mission of the eternal host is to restore the connection with Milky Way's organic memory matrix and its organic ether cores. This occurs through the link with M31 Andromeda Galaxy, which holds the organic replica of Milky Way's memory matrix before its fall. Through the progressive blending of the eternal and internal templates of these two galaxies, and the Blue Lotus Theta line connection, the original memory matrix of the Milky Way is restored, which allows the consciousness of the galaxy for reclamation of its authentic identity and passing on that gift forward to all forms of life that live within this system. So, thanks to the fact that there's this blending that starts to take place between M31 and the Milky Way, we are getting that host transmission of the frequencies, and thanks to that, the Milky Way galaxy, the consciousness of the galaxy in general, it starts to reawaken, and all of those memories that have been kind of like lost over 300 billion years ago are right now being retrieved. So this is like a wonderful opportunity for the entire life field of this galaxy to remember its true connection to the source, because it all kind of comes back to the fact that we were living in separation for a very long time. We were in the condition of the galactic quarantine because of the Milky Way kind of like splitting from Andromeda and the black hole being created in the center of the Milky Way. So like instead of the black hole, we should have like a central galactic sun, and the central galactic sun should be interfacing with the sun of our solar system and with the higher frequency universal sun, and then that universal sun would be connecting with the cosmic sun, etc., etc. And that was maintaining that connection. But when the black hole was opened, we were basically put into a state of galactic quarantine. So like what happened in 2020 was basically like a manifestation of that on this planet. So right now, thanks to the Dark River Passage being closed, and the Dark River Passage being closed and the entire galaxy being connected to the host field of Andromeda, we are not so closed anymore, and there's more of the guardian races that could actually come and support us with the process of healing and bioregenesis. So now I will explain what I meant with those particle grids. So we can imagine a particle grid which is full of the small tiny crystals or sparks of light that are interconnected due to the invisible energy cords that run between them. So it's kind of like we've got multiple sparks, and there are kind of like those tiny lines, kind of energy cords coming out from those sparks, and they create like a grid. And this intrinsic connection allows for the harmonious energy flow through the unified field structure. Everything is connected, and you also have those particle grids in your body, kind of like those grids of the living light. And now this flow can be distorted in a few ways. And I am talking about the particle grids because they are kind of processing the scalar waves, so like the waves that carry information. So that also includes memories. The memories of the future, past, and present, because time is simultaneous. So you might be getting the memories from your past incarnations, from your future incarnations, or like even from your simultaneous incarnations that kind of exist like on the other side of the vector line. This flow can be distorted in a few ways, either through reversing the organic proportions or encryptions of the light sparks, the particle units. And the particle units, well, they have like a certain quantum. So like if this quantum gets distorted, there are also distortions in the frequency that they process, or cutting off the energy cords between the particles. So this is starting to phase lock the particles, and like they are not connected with each other, so they kind of lose that connection to the source. In both cases, the grid starts to have black holes in its structure that block the organic flow of energy information. So basically, like a simple exercise that you can do is you can try to visualize those particle grids running through your body. And if you see any black holes in those particle grids, or kind of the places where you cannot see them at all, that's where the connections are lost. That's where this memory matrix is, it basically almost doesn't exist. So the way you start to retrieve it is you can start to send your plasma frequencies through those grids, and they start to kind of like spark and shine with beautiful light. And that's how they start to activate on multiple levels. Okay, before I get into different types of memory matrices, I'm just going to briefly speak about abductions and why certain people, even though they have been through an abduction, they usually don't hold the conscious memories of it. Only in rare cases, you're actually holding the conscious memory of abductions. So abductions performed by the ET races are usually hidden in the subconscious or the unconscious mind stations to prevent the identity from their conscious identification. Very often, the childhood traumas, such as the sexual abuse, are a cover for the events that were happening on another level. So like you remember that during the day, someone was abusing you, and that might be true, or it might be a holographic insertion, but you don't remember what was happening during the night, and that's when the abduction took place. So this is how it works. Like the trauma in this case is kind of covering up another trauma from like a much deeper level. Weak memories of childhood, very vague memories of childhood, or the traumas associated with the early period of life are very often holographic insertions that have been deliberately installed to block an individual from accessing actual memories of the abductions, during which a lot of DNA modifications, implants, and contract may be imposed on an individual to prevent it from stepping into its higher missions. Indigo and starseeds are the most common targets when it comes to abductions by various ET races. So when it comes to the abductions, you might not hold like the full memory of it, or you might not remember it at all, but like if you have very weak memories, very little memories of yourself at a young age, this might be related to the abductions or the blank slate technology that was inserted directly into your body. And for some reason, it started wiping out your memories. And there could be all sorts of reasons. Usually it's being done to very gifted souls so that they don't reawaken at a young age. And also in order to stop the higher DNA activations from kind of triggering and from being embodied. So this blank slate technology and all of those abductions, they are also preventing the higher DNA strands from activating. And that kind of brings us to a question. Can anyone hijack your memories or insert some artificial ones? So the answer is yes, the memories can be hijacked or inserted. This can happen through somebody directly accessing your personal records, your soul matrix or your Akashic records, etc. Through magic, usually the illusion spells, which are inserting false memories and perceptions, or through the DNA modification. Memories can be also inserted through a black magic technique, referred to as the soul swap. And that means moving the soul from one body to another. And it's like, it was quite funny, like I started writing down the answer for this question, and like this name kind of kept coming, like the soul swap, and I had to tune in with what that actually was about, and it kind of it felt very familiar in a way, as if I was witnessing that taking place, and then I kind of like put it into like words to kind of explain that process. So I do feel like this is quite important to share. So the soul swap is about moving the soul from one body to another. So when we speak about the walking, this is the organic process. Like originally, there's one soul that walks into the body of the indigo. It prepares the body, it activates it, and then it's walking out, and the original soul is coming into the activated body. This is the process that is taking place due to a certain agreement. However, the soul swap is a really nasty, malicious, black magic technique, because it's literally like the soul is extracted out of one body and is put to another. And that's what some of the families on this planet have been doing, where, let's say, like a grandfather in the family was dying, but it basically wanted to reincarnate in the same family. So like the grandfather passes away after some time, but the soul is being transferred to its grandson. So it's a different body, and everybody thinks it's a different person, but it's actually the same soul. So you might have like the same king ruling through centuries, because it keeps coming from one body to the other. So that's why they also had an obsession to like have a son, because basically the power has been always in the hands of the king. So like if they had the right genes, if they had the if the coding of the body, because it's like in order for the soul swap to happen without actually causing the death of the body, the coding of the DNA template needs to be compatible, very compatible. So they were literally like jumping from one body to the other. And that's how they have been in control for a very, very long time. So along with such operation, the entirety of the memory matrix of the soul is implanted into the new body, which may cause a sense of confusion of identity, which is residing in the body that has been chosen for the soul swap, since it also contains the memories of its previous organic identity. So if the template is not too compatible, there's just like a lot of identity issues, and it may end up with the death of the vessel, of the biological body. Memories may be also influenced or altered through various mental body and psychological tactics. They don't always have to be negative, since reprogramming the negatively associated experiences may have healing effects and enable the neurogenesis process in the body. So like the way that I was describing it, like you go back to the past and then you clear your subconscious. This is the organic way to affect certain patterns running through your body. However, that thing with the soul swap, this is quite a nasty technique. Let me see. So now I will explain a little bit about something that I guess we can all just reflect on. What is the eternal connection, and how do we actually retrieve the memories, since I would say that like today is the 27th of May. So that means that technically the cycle of the trumpet pulses is over, even though I feel like there might be more, but I guess we'll see about that. However, we are kind of coming into I would say like a new cycle. A lot of heavy reversed plasma energies are being cleared and replaced with the beautiful frequencies coming from the eternal creation. So it is worth realizing that as we are in this cycle, and at the same time we've got the Hitaro, which is the electrical peak of the planetary Merkaba field, the energies are very interesting, very strong, and that may kind of like we can reflect a little bit about the eternal host gift that we are being given, and that actually it's about coming back on the path of remembrance, realizing that once we start to remember, or at least kind of feel, because it starts with feeling and then this remembrance is coming to the conscious mind, we start to get back our inner power. Memory is the key to power. That's why they've been affecting our memories, because this was a certain way to control us. So as we start to get transmissions from the Urea libraries of the Uralake Conservatory Eternal Domain, we begin to get back those beautiful organic memories. So I'm just gonna read what I have been given by my eternal self. No matter how much of our quantum gets reversed or how much memory we lose, what always stays is our eternal connection. It can be defined in many ways. It is our core identity, the one that holds memory of us being in eternal unity with the God source fields, and about the cosmic dance through the evolutionary cycles of the externalized creation. It reminds us about the primordial desire that each one of us holds within. Every single being, regardless of infiltration level, holds the eternal connection within themselves, even if they are not fully aware of it. And that's why the touch of the source is supposed to help them remember it. I will explain the touch of the source in a moment. The eternal crystal river host may hold many purposes, but its core intention is to restore our eternal connection in order to once again bring us on the path of remembrance. It is the bravest path that we can take as we consciously choose to learn how to remember once again, as a conscious aspect of the eternal source field. The eternal Urea body carries the encryption of this remembrance, and it directly assists us with reconnecting with our eternal self-identity, as well as the Urea libraries that carry the purest information about the entire cosmoverse, as they hold the records of the eternal self-memory of the galaxies, planets, universes, etc. So that's what the Urea libraries are. They basically carry the knowledge about the eternal creation mechanics. They are located in the Uralake Conservatory, the domain of the eternal creation. The activation of this planetary, kind of like the activation of the planetary access to these records, initiated in 2018, so that would be like 6 years ago, and it became available to the masses in 2022, along with the activation of Earth's core crystal. Information stored in the flame vapor crystal form is read or encoded through one's eternal self connection. These records contain the information about the entire cosmoverse, coming from the eternal self Euradian identity of the suns, galaxies, stars, etc. And it's not like there aren't really books there. It's kind of like there's this form of what came up is kind of like the flame vapor crystal discs. But I had like a few experiences with those libraries over the past 2 years, and they looked extremely fascinating. For example, like there's been like this, they kind of have like those 3D maps, which are kind of like serving as simulations where you've got like the planets rotating around the sun, and it's like they are looking at this simulation and they can predict how those planets are aligning with the other planets, even in another galaxy. And based on that, they are able to trace the alignments and kind of like align it with the proper frequencies that need to be transmitted. So there are a lot of research centers in the Urea libraries. And there's basically, I would say, a lot of precious things that we can learn from those libraries. So like whenever we tap into our eternal self, that knowledge from those libraries is also coming online. And now I saved the last thing, I'll say the most interesting thing for the end, and that is the touch of the source. And that is like a very important aspect of the eternal crystal river host. So the touch of the source is a direct gift from the God source that helps us remember the times when we were at full attunement with the God source consciousness and our moment of individuation. So there's like this moment when you were in full union with the source, and then you decided to externalize yourself down to the pure frequency. So the touch of the source is reminding us of this moment when we were in union with the source, and the moment when we still kept that connection, but we started externalizing into various levels of creation. The touch of the source is directly transmitted through the Urea body, and it's basically a transmission of the pure source frequencies to a being, a planet, a galaxy, etc. So this touch of the source is coming directly from the consciousness of the source, obviously, and this touch of the source is kind of coming through the structure of the Urea body directly into our conscious mind. And that is right now applied to assist the fallen races with remembering their origin, who they truly are, because they don't remember that they used to be a part of the source. And like if you ask them like, hey, do you want the host? And they are like, no, I don't. It's because they don't exactly understand, they don't understand the concept of unity. So the touch of the source is giving them like a fair chance, like they remember who they were before they disconnected, and that frequency of that memory is helping them also understand their current condition, and they get a full picture. So then they can choose whether they still decide to stay disconnected and eventually they will space dust, or whether they can come back to their path of remembrance towards reunion with the source. The touch of the source is an aspect of the eternal host mechanics that helps every single being find its way to remembrance. So I would say that this is like a really beautiful aspect of it, and it does really bring a lot of joy when you see all of those fallen races actually being very impressed and very touched by the touch of the source. So I think this is like a beautiful opportunity for the entire creation to keep growing and expanding. So I would say that this is all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something new about the memory. I am not sure what I will do for my next show, so if you have any specific questions or whether you would like me to expand on this topic, I'm absolutely open for it. But for now, I wish you a wonderful week. I hope you will enjoy the frequencies of the chevron and the hitaro. And I will see you soon. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care and bye-bye.
Are we finished?
Yes.